Hello everyone, and this is the week 4 tutorial for PR5, which we are going to do another basic page layout, which I have on the PDF on NetSchool. So this is a rough idea of what it's going to look like once we finish. And what we'll do today is we'll look again at the containers, fluid containers and normal containers, responsive images. We're going to introduce this nav bar that you can see here. And we're just going to have a look at how we can manage different rows and columns, and also how we can use our CSS functions to control the size of the images. So if we go to NetSchool, we can see all the assets you need are inside the week 4 folder. Now if you go back to the tutorial here, there's a few things I'm going to be doing slightly different. For example, in the tutorial I am making the nav bar by ourselves, but what we'll be doing throughout this tutorial is we'll just be taking the assets from the W3C Schools website itself and embedding them. So as you can see, I've already opened up Dreamweaver. I have mapped my site, created a new site on the desktop called it Week 4. I've embedded the images inside, CSS folder. I've also have this folder with the bootstrap links. I've got a few extra files here because I've already been working on some other tutorial material. So we have the HTML page open, and I've already linked my CSS, as you can see here. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to open up the bootstrap links. So I've already put this in for you. If you remember from last week, we need to put in the viewport in order that our site can shrink for smaller devices, and the CSS link for bootstrap. So if we just copy these, and these two go into the head of the document, as you know. Now if we're using our own CSS, we must make that the last link in order that it overwrites any functionality of the bootstrap CSS. Okay, and then the other two links that we have, the jQuery and the JavaScript link, copy them and then we paste them into the body. So just create a lot of space, Control V. Now, as I said last week, in order to see whether it works, we can just simply put some text in. And if it's linked OK, the font should change from Times New Roman to Helvetica, and as we see here, that's a Helvetica font. Okay, so that's good. Now if you look to the tutorial, this part here, we're going to do the first piece of the page, which is to put the header in. And we're going to try this two different ways. First of all, we're going to do it with a non-responsive image, like this here, and then we're going to make the image responsive. So if we go back to Dreamweaver, and I've already made my container fluid, and I've put a background colour, this kind of bluish colour here, and align centre in order to align the image. The next thing I'll do, I'll just find my image, so I'll just type in image, source, find the header, and there's our image here. And if we just save that file, save all, file, preview in browser, and we can see we have now the top of the page done, except the image is not responding. So what we can simply do is add in another class to that is image responsive. So within here, what we can simply do is put in our class file, save again, and then file, preview. And this time the image should respond to the size of the browser. like so. Okay, so that's how we put a image responsive class on an image. Now the next part of the tutorial looks at the navigation bar. However, instead of us writing all the code ourselves, I want to introduce you to the W3C Schools website again and to show you some of the really interesting component parts that you can very quickly create some really nice functional Bootstrap pages. So you can either go through this yourself if you want, just out of practice, but in the meantime what we'll do is we'll go to the W3C Schools and we can just take the code from there. So if we just type in Bootstrap, look for the tutorials, and we get a lot of really nice components that we can add and customize ourselves. We've got a lot of nice examples, a lot of nice information on the grids, so some good study resource there for you. The Jumbotron, just like almost like a header as well, which we can use to customize. So for example, we could maybe take this part here, Command C, get back to Dreamweaver, and if we just paste that in, File, Save All, File Preview. And there we have a Jumbotron. So as you can imagine, we can put our own content in here, we can style that with our own CSS. And again, this is the power of Bootstrap, where you use all these classes and IDs. If we think back to the first couple of weeks when we did some basic prototyping and also some mid-fidelity prototyping with Envision.app, we very quickly scaled up some nice designs. And if we think about the power of Bootstrap and all the component parts, like as I saw with the Jumbotron there, we can use a lot of, for example, different icons. All the code is there for these component parts. Progress bar. Let's just explore this. And the next one we'll use is the nav bar. Now again, if we have all this code here, we don't necessarily have to connect this up to a database just now, but we have the skills where we can basically hyperlink pages together. So for example, if we're doing work for a client, we can very simply get a responsive page up and running super quick. We can maybe take the nav bar from here, Command C, that's all the code we need. Back into Dreamweaver, and we can simply cut and paste that code for the nav bar in. And we can change the text, say for example, Bootstrap. Boot. And we'll just preview that in the browser. Okay, so that's a responsive menu. Now if you look again at the tutorial, we move on to this part here, which starts at choose your destination according to. And within that we have these 3 images, and underneath we have a heading and some text. So essentially we're going to use 4 columns here, 4 columns here, and 4 columns here. So 3 times 4 is 12. So now we'll go to Dreamweaver and we'll begin to set that up. So I've already put in here my container fluid, and I've put in a comment to show where it starts and a comment to show where it finishes. I'll take that out, I don't need that. I've got a div class row which opens up here and it closes there. So if I look back to what I have to do, I have to make these sections here. So I'll now go ahead and start to do that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the heading in, and that's outside the row. So I can already put that in here, make it an H2. Quickly close it. And that is choose your destination. just refresh. And see how that looks. So that's looking okay. So now we'll start to create the 3 sections that run across the page. And that will mean that we'll have these sections running over 4 columns each. So we're creating here a div class, and then we give it column. We're using 4 columns, but this will stack, this will break when we get to the small breakpoint. So what this will mean is when we collapse the page in, rather than going over the 4 columns with the images and the text that we'll use, it will stack up on top of each other. Okay, so go ahead and create a div class column-sm4, and then what we'll do is we'll put our image inside this. So now create our image class, and we're going to do this a little bit different because we're going to now control all the images from the one CSS, because we've named it. We'll name them all icon, like so. Image class icon, and the source of this, just browse, find the first image, click OK, and click refresh. We should now see our image in here. Now, one thing that we need to do is you'll need to go to your CSS and create a class for this image. So we're telling it the maximum width needs to be 150, the margin 0 and auto, and the display block. So what that means is the image is going to be no larger than 150 pixels, and it's going to have no margin on the top or the bottom, and it's going to center itself at a line in that column. Okay, so what we can simply do now, we can take this column, Command C, Command V, Command V, and then what we simply need to do is we just need to find our different images. So the next one is, if we refer back to, is the compass. This one here, and this will also stay the same size because it's the using image class icon. And the next one is the camera. This one here. Okay, so we just click File and Save. So if we just preview that just now, see how it looks. Now, as we've said, we're using 4 columns each just now, so we're using 4 columns here, 4 columns here, 4 columns here, until it gets to the small breakpoint, and then it will stack like so. Now also remember that this tag here, the H2 tag, is without the row, so that's just going to stay there as normal, unless in our CSS we could make it text align center, and we'll do that in a little minute and make it shift along. So now if we're back in Dreamweaver, what we'll do is we will take this H2 tag here, as you can see, it's just within the container, but it's out with the rows, so that's going to just stay where it is. So what we'll do, if we go to the CSS, and we give that a style, H2 text align center. We refresh that, and there it is. And we could perhaps give it a bit of a margin at the bottom. Maybe say 50 pixels. And that gives us a little bit more space here. So we go File, Save, Preview in Browser. Okay, so the next part what we need to do, we need to put the text in within these columns. So let's now do the text. So immediately under the images, or the image class icon, like here, within the column, we will now create an H3 tag. The first one says the weather, and then we'll create a paragraph tag. And again, a good idea is just to go to lorem ipsum, which is somewhere, and just copy some text back to Dreamweaver and paste it in. So we can see the first one's now populated correctly. So we can just take that again, the H3 tag and the paragraph tag, Command C, and we go below the following image, Control V, and Control V. Now if we refer back to the tutorial, it says location and reviews. So we can just simply change that. So just click Save and Preview. Okay. And what we might do here is we might just give that tag there, the H3 tag, a little tidy up in CSS, and we'll just give it text align center also, so we can just cut and paste it from here into there, like so. Refresh, and that says File, Save, and then File, Preview. Okay, that's a lot better. But just be very careful when we're doing that, when you're cutting and pasting in the code. You're always aware of the container opening, container closing, as I've got here, and then inside that, where your columns open and your columns close. So just a little refresher on what we did there. We're basically occupying 4 columns each for these sections, and when it gets to the small breakpoint, it's going to collapse and stack up upon itself. So now we'll move on to the next part of the tutorial. So now the next part of the tutorial, if you just scroll down a few pages, we're going to come to this section here, which is quite simple. It's just a container fluid. Inside it we have an H2 tag that we've already styled. So we'll shift this over to the middle. We have an image class again of this arrow. And the whole idea behind this is to show you again about prototyping. In principle, this would be a collapsible menu, for example, in order to show a client some functionality, what they could basically be doing. However, we're just going to do it just for aesthetic purposes. It's using the same image class as icon, so it'll adopt the same properties as the images before. For example, it will stay centered in the middle of the container, and it won't be bigger than 60 pixels wide and 60 pixels high. Okay, so let's just go back again to Dreamweaver. I've created a container fluid, given it comments to show where it opens and where it closes. So the next part, what we need to do is to put an H2 tag in, explore other interesting things. Okay. Okay, and what we'll also need to do is we'll also need to, which it doesn't say here, we'll need to put in a style, and we'll style the background of the container. Oh. And we're just going to choose this kind of pink colour like so. Just check that. Now hopefully you have spotted the mistake as well, so I have to cut that out of here and make sure that I put it following the closing tag of the last container, like so. So if I refresh here, that's now working the way it should be. And there's a little tag in there somewhere. Like so. So the next thing we have to do, we have to put this little arrow icon in, and that will go below here. So image up. Okay, and if we just go File, Save, Preview, it's looking good. And what we'll now do is we'll just put a little breakpoint below that. So what we can simply do is just put in BR, dash, refresh, and we'll see this jumping. Or we should. File, save, preview again. Yep, we now have a bit of space to work with. Okay, so we'll now move on to the next part of the tutorial, which is the section below. So if we scroll down a little bit, we see this is the section we're going to make now, which contains 4 different parts. So we'll make a container fluid, open and close, again a row, and inside that we'll create our columns. So what we'll be doing here is we'll be using 3 columns here, 3 columns here, 3 columns here, 3 columns here. But we'll give it 2 different breakpoints. We'll have a breakpoint at the medium, so that at the medium breakpoint we'll just have this section and this section stretching across the browser, and this section here and this section here will go in below. One will sit here, one will sit there, and we'll also give it a small breakpoint as well, where it will just stack up one on top of each other. Another thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to make another image class. We'll be using this image box here, so we'll create a class for that. On the CSS we'll give that some extra properties which we can see below. So we'll make sure our images have all the same height, margin auto, and also margin 0 at the top, and display block which just aligns them side by side. So if I now go to Dreamweaver, I've also created my fluid container already in my row. I need to take this out. I'll now start creating my columns. So create div class equals. I'll do my medium breakpoint first, and I'll do a small breakpoint. I'll give that a style in the background first. This one will be a dark blue. So we can see that's working okay just now. And now we'll put our image class in. So we'll just tab down a little bit and we create image class equals, and we call this one icon box. We'll find the image, and this one first of all is the tickets, this one here. Okay, so if we go back to our CSS, I've already created the properties for it, and what I'll do here is I'll take that down to about 100. That's a bit better, and I'll maybe put in 10 pixels margin at the top, just like so. So play around and try your own properties as well. See what you're comfortable with and see what your preferences are. Now down to the code again, put another tag in, an H1 tag, or maybe an H3 tag this time. We can style it ourselves. Refresh. And in order to see that, in fact, we'll make that an H4 because we've already used the H3. And we can give it a white colour. That should make that white. Okay, and text align center. That should just move the text in a little bit. That's looking quite nice. So the next thing we'll have to do is we'll have to copy these sections, these columns, and just switch the images. Okay, so we'll now just take these parts and move them into here, here and here. So that's the opening of the column, and this is the closing. And within that we have the image, which is controlled by the icon box. I've just changed that height 150, margin 0, auto and display block. But what we can also do up here, we can put this little tag in, which is called a break tag, and that also gives us a little bit of space to work with. Okay, so just take this one, Command C, Command V, Command V. Refresh, and what we'll now go about doing is just to swap over those images and to change the text. So as you can see, I've already done these two. I just need to change this one here. So if you just refer to the tutorial, you can see what kind of colours you're looking for. The last one we need a light blue, so we can just tab in. And it doesn't have to be exact, just whatever you feel, something like that. And in order to change the image, just need to go to source again, browse, and this one is the beaches. Okay, catch up upon itself, and file, save. Okay, now we've put in one breakpoint, so what should happen is when the page collapses, we want it to stack it 1, 2, and these two images will go in below, and then it goes to the small breakpoint. It'll be as normal, stacking up on top of each other. So what we'll have to do just now is we'll have to put in another breakpoint for the small. So we put in TOL-SM-6, and I can just copy and paste that. Command C, Command V. Command V. Oh, so it's 1, 2, 3. There's the one missing. So we just need to be very careful. We know where we are. File, save, and we'll preview that. We should see our two breakpoints now working. So the first one should be at the medium point here. So you can see that's working, and the last one just as normal on the small breakpoint. Okay. So for some reason we have a little bit of space in there, but I'll have a wee look at that later on. Okay, so that's getting there. So again, back to the tutorial. Again, play around with these. You can choose your own sizes if you like. On the images here, they look a lot bigger than that. And just try your own things out, your own text. We need to change the text in here. I'll do that in a little second. But we'll go on to the second last part, whereby we'll be looking at occupying 6 of the columns, 3 of the columns, and 3 of the columns here. Okay, so to start this one now, I've created a container fluid, open, close, row open and row close. And again, just to make sure that when you do this, you're always following on from the last container closing tag like we have here. So the section we see above, we're always starting beyond that, okay? Now this section that we're going to be doing is very similar to the one that we've just made, except this one's going to be 6 columns, and these two are just pretty much identical, same breakpoints, etc., than to the previous section that we have. So I'll just start again by making the div class column. And I'll give this one same medium dash 3. No, in fact, this one is 6. And we'll give that a style, a background colour again. If we just refer to the tutorial, so it's a kind of peachy kind of colour. I'll just do that once more. So it's kind of something like so. So I can see that's now taking 6 columns up. That's what we want. I can just tab that down, and the next thing we need is again this image class equals. This is icon box again because we're using the same properties. The source image browse is this one here. the map. Let me just close that. We also need, after that, another tag. I think I'll put in another H3 tag. Maps and guides. And then we just see how that's looking. So again, we can put some space in the top here. We can put a little break and BR. That's quite nice. And then what we can simply do is we can simply copy these. We can copy it from here. Command C, Command V. Now this is going to be over 3. And I'll take that again, Command O, Command Z, Command C, Command V. Okay, now all I need to do here is just to switch the background colour, and this one's to a kind of darkest blue, like so. Doesn't really matter. Wrong one. That's the third one, that's a kind of green colour. And the second one here. Then we just swap the images over. Let it catch up on itself. That's that one here, and the last one is the discounts. Just preview this, see how it looks. So this is all looking good. Now go back to the Dreamweaver, and we'll need to put in breakpoints for these, for the small. So we can just put in excuse me, column dash SM dash 6. And again, call dash SM dash 6. And if we just file, save, preview in browser, we should have these two breakpoints working. Okay, so these top ones are working fine. This is working well, and hopefully when we move this in, these will all stack up. Okay, that's good. Now I'm just a little confused as to why I'm getting these white lines, but I'll try and fix that later on, just in order to save time. I've checked it on another browser, it doesn't seem to work, so it's a bit confusing. Anyway, let's go into the last part of the tutorial. And as you can see, if once you get a bit quicker at this, you can just cut and paste a lot of the stuff that you're already doing. For example, this one here, it's just going to go over 6 columns. So essentially we can just take this part here, which we've already made, and just embed a video in it. And this part leaves blank, so we'll do that one just now. So this is the last part of the tutorial, this embedded video here, responsive video. So if we look at what we've done, we have got a nice responsive header, we've put in a nav bar, got a top section in here, we've got different sections all the way down here that are using different breakpoints, sometimes 1 breakpoint, sometimes 2 breakpoints. The last one again is just a little bit different. We're going to use 6 columns here and it doesn't look as though we have anything in there. We just get some text and we're going to use 6 columns over there. So there's only going to be one breakpoint that we'll use here, which will be the small breakpoint. So when this browser gets a bit smaller, this section in here will stack underneath. Okay, so just play around. Once you've finished this, hopefully you can try your own and you get a better idea of how the breakpoints work. Okay, so go back to Dreamweaver. You can see that I've already made a container fluid, open and close, row open and close. And now what we'll do is we'll put in 2 columns. The first column will embed the video and the second column will just have some text inside. So last time div class dot div it's a small breakpoint, so we're using 6. I'll close that. And this part's a little bit tricky. Embed responsive. Again, embed. This one here is the aspect ratio for the movie that we'll play inside. So inside this div tag we'll embed the movie. So we need to make this other div tag which is called iframe. Make a class of that equals embed again responsive item, and the source. Oh, need to close that. That's HTTP colon so let's just preview this. So there is a video in. Back to Dreamweaver, and we just need to put in after this closing column and if we refresh, and we preview in browser. Let me see. Okay, now I'm getting a small mistake here, so I just want to double check. Okay, so the last thing I need to do, I've just noticed that this should be a medium breakpoint and this one should be a medium breakpoint. And as you can see, there is a little bit of space naturally with this embedded response class. So just go to File, Save, and then File, Preview in Browser. quite nice, and there we've embedded a video, a responsive video. Okay. So again, so there you go, you've got a fully functioning responsive web page designed there fairly quickly. Please play around, try and perhaps fill in the spaces here, try it with your own images, try your text, look at styling even further with the CSS page, maybe change your fonts, install some Google fonts, and also perhaps go to W3C Schools and have a look at some of the extra functions that you can get. For example, maybe the carousel, which is a really nice one for working with images. So you can embed some of these functions perhaps into the top of your page. Forms is also nice as well. We can have these form bars. And again, we think about what we're going to be doing for what we have been doing prototyping. It's really interesting that you can take these fully styled elements and build up a fully functioning page. Okay, so that's this tutorial over with. Same again for next week. What we'll be doing in class is you have the PDF, which is a good guide if you want to do it on your own. Except I think though it's best doing it with the video, as I show you different ways to do certain things. So yeah, when you come to class, we can just give you the YouTube account. You can log in, look at the video, and we'll do that next week until we finish up. And please let me know your thoughts on the video, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks, bye bye.